Hi there, I'm Jenny Kirk and welcome back for another quick video in our series on building a small shunting layout similar to Grove Street Yard, which is my exhibition layout that was featured in Model Rail magazine some time ago now. Now here you can see it's not a view that you'd normally see of this, this layout even at an exhibition. What we can see here is the underside. Now we've talked about the actual structure of the baseboards in a previous video, so what I want to look at here is just a little quick look at the electrics, and we've kept them as simple as possible on Grove Street Yard, and because it's meant to be mobile, we've tried to make as much of the electrics integral to each section as possible. So whilst the capacitor discharge unit lives on this section with the fiddle yard, a lot of the switches for the points are, by necessity of the points being on this board as well. So what we've done is we've created effectively almost like a ring for the power, whereby the common return daisy chains between all of the points. Now, because these are just simple solenoid motors, PL-10 Peco ones, what we've done is we wired together one side of every single one of them. They're all wired together and then all wired from one motor to the next, and then back again. And that gives you your common return. There's no point in messing about putting hundreds upon hundreds of wires in to give a return from every single point. It just isn't necessary. So we've got the one wire that comes all the way back. And I hasten to add that whilst you can see huge numbers of different colours here, I did start out with good intentions of colour coding all of the wires on this, but what happens when you do that is you run out of one of the colours of wires, and because I was loath to spend more money, I started using the wire that I hadn't quite used all of. So ignore the colours, they don't actually mean an awful lot. What we've then done with the other side of the solenoids is we've got a wire wired to each terminal that then goes back to the terminals on our passing contact switches, so that when the switch moves from one side to the other, it will send power as a pulse down either one of these wires or the other, depending on which way that switch is being moved. And that's what actually fires our solenoid motor and pushes across the bar, which is connected to the tie bar of the point, and therefore obviously moves the points across. Now what we're going to look at next is the actual control panel, and I'm going to show you where all these wires end up. We can see them all disappearing through these lovely little cuts that we put in the woodwork when we built this, and they all head to a little hole there. Now let's go topside and see where that hole ends up. And we can see here topside all the wires come up through this little hole in the corner, and we're using these Hornby 00 switches. These are actually quite old, they date back to the 1950s, 1960s, but they're perfectly good for our job. They're rugged and they're reliable. They've lasted this long, and you can see they come in broadly three different colours. We've got the greens, we've got the blacks, and we've got the maroons. The maroons are the ones we're interested in for the points. These are the passing contact switches. That means that when each of these switches is moved, we get a pulse of power going either one way or the other through the point. We don't want it continuous because it will burn out the motor. That's what these green switches do. They provide, they're an on-on switch, and that means that they will provide a power feed to one of two outputs constantly. The black ones are an on-off switch. They're for your isolating sections, and they're simply in one position, no power flows, in the other position power flows all the time. But going back to these maroon ones, we've got our common power feed in. This is a bit like the common return, but it goes from the other side of the capacitor discharge unit, and it only goes as far as here to all the power feeds across the entire lot here. And you can see we've just literally strung a wire from one to the next so that they're all receiving power at the same time, and then our wires going out to the points come out from the other side. And you can see I did try and colour code with yellow and red, and it's largely worked at this end, even though you end up with this huge, great big annoying rat's nest. And we've also numbered the switches. This can be important, especially if you're having different people try and operate your layout. You can then produce a chart which tells people what each switch actually does. And whilst in a perfect world it's nice to be able to wire them logically, one person's logic is not necessarily the logic of the next. Well, that's pretty much all we've got time for in this video, and hopefully that's giving you an overview of the wiring, how to wire up the point motors on a small shunting layout. But it also builds on some of our previous videos which featured Bolton Trinity Road out in the shed. So if you want a more in-depth look on the point motors and the wiring up of them, it's probably worth going back and having a look at some of those videos. Don't forget to press the like button if you like this video, because every time you press it I get a sweetie. And don't forget to share this video if there's somebody that you think that would benefit from being able to see this, and subscribe to the channel to be the first to know about new videos as and when they're filmed. Anyway, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying take very good care of yourself until next time. Bye for now.